So today I'm going to be talking about video games and computer holding power, and this is a piece by Sherry Turkle. And I want to start off by saying how much I enjoyed it because I think she keeps a very level-headed and unbiased approach to the way she talks about it, which I think a lot of academics and a lot of discourse doesn't do when it talks about video games. So first of all, one of the leading points, as you can tell by the title, is the holding power of video games, and she makes reference to this throughout. And as I go through points later on, we'll further expand upon this. But what she's making reference to is the idea that these video games have the ability to keep the player fixated in their world and keep them held in position. And she attempts to explain this by it as a keenness for the players to master the game. And in doing so, it creates this hypnotic fascination where the players sit there continuously trying to better their last performance or better someone else's performance. And again, when she talks about holding power, she doesn't make negative connotations associated with it. She steers clear of that, which I think is so refreshing. Now, one of the key points she talks about is this myth of mindless action, which so many people associate video games with. And she says that gaming isn't so easily analogous with television and drugs as everyone thinks, because it's something you're taking part in. You're not sitting down watching an episode of Simpsons or whatever you may watch. You're actually taking part in controlling elements of this world, controlling a character or a body in this world. It's an interactive computer micro world, as she describes it. Now, she likens this interaction. Well, she doesn't. Sorry, from the research she's conducted, she found that players liken this relationship to sports, sex, and meditation. And to me, I actually really agree with this in terms of the sports aspect, because I've played games like League of Legends and Overwatch, which is team versus team, like a 5v5 in both situations. And there's some pictures here of LoL and Overwatch, both different style games, but very competitive. And you have to work effectively with a team to win. But the idea is that you have a constant ELO ranking, and you're always trying to do better and get better. And it's so competitive, exactly like a sport. And now there's a huge industry called esports, where there's thousands of players and millions of dollars of prize money. So the next point that Turkle talks about is losing oneself in a simulated world. And she says that the danger of video games is not in the mindless play, but instead of the infatuation with the challenge of a simulated world. And again, she makes reference to this holding power, that these players are so enamored with the challenge of this world, that they just held and fixated in it. And she says for these players, it's easy to fall in love with their performances in this simulated world. And she does, however, say that this immersion and this holding power is limited to the extent that while video games allow for an identification with characters, they actually leave little room for playing their roles. And she describes this, or she explains this by saying that you're always adhering to the rules of the simulated world and the people who programmed it. So you're always limited to what has been constructed, essentially. Where in life you can essentially do whatever you please, the simulated world has distinct limitations. See, but in saying that, I thought it was quite interesting because our world itself has lots of limitations. I cannot fly. I cannot suddenly grow 3 times the size. There's similar limitations in computer games where you may be blocked from flying, literally blocked from flying, or blocked from a certain area. I thought there are still similar characteristics between our world and theirs, our world and a simulated world. And she does say though that the clear-cut rules of video games are what appeals and attracts these gamers. So the next idea that Turkle talks about is this idea of the altered state. And she says that in the process of someone acting for a video game character, there becomes this special kind of hold. Now, she also builds off that point, saying that for many people, the reason they play the video game is to pursue this altered state that they can achieve through playing the video game. Instead of just pursuing a high score or beating someone else, it's this altered state of mind. And some examples are relaxation and meditation. And it was interesting, there was a nervous economist who she interviewed, and he said